What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Retro Rewire. My name is JJ, once again in the game room, and we're going to continue the never-ending game hunt. And once again in Sapporo. Now, in this mini-series, in the first episode, I hit up the Surugaya, which was conveniently located like about a block away from my hotel. And now we're going to a hard-off, book-off, off-house. It's a triple threat, and it was about 2 stops away from where I was staying at. So not too far, and also I would say also convenient. And then after that, I'm going to show you what I had for lunch. We're going to hit up another book off and a Gale that were just down the street from the hotel. So we got a lot of stuff to cover in this episode. So without further ado, just kick back, relax, and let's go ahead and hit it and see what kind of retro wonders we discover. That's right, 7,700 yen. I want to say for that GBA, that's middle of the road pricing. This Ethernet adapter, this is a fairly uncommon thing, especially in the box, and kind of pricey. But what we're doing here, guys, is we're just skimming the areas. You know, this is the main game aisle of the hard off part of the store. We'll check the junk section, and I highly recommend you check other areas of the store because you just never know what you're gonna find. You know, we saw like the emerald green cube controller for $38.50 there. And then that Tron Capcom little mini arcade thing, barcade maybe, a Mega Drive 2. And again, we're just kind of skimming things through. And that's the way I like to do it because I just want to get a feel like for, you know, where things are at, basic pricing, you know, Biohazard here for 11,000. And look at all the Super Game Boys. They had 4 all in the box. And I believe those were, at $16.50. So not terribly expensive. If you look around in other places, you can sometimes find them for a little bit less, but not by much. And then here we have a copy of Zelda for the old Super Famicom for $16.50. But it does have some notes. Anyhow, let's make our way into the junk section. And look at all these instruments. They had quite a bit of electronics. And look how deep that goes. But anyhow, let's take a quick peek at this showcase. Now there is going to be a few handhelds there on the second to bottom shelf, and then up at the top we got some analog film cameras, we got some cassette tapes, Michael Jackson. I'm not sure what that one in the middle, but down below they had some more handhelds. They got some clarinets, I believe that's what that is, and some trumpets, some power tools, all sorts of stuff. But let's go ahead, make our way into the junk section, and the first thing that catches my attention is this stereo integrated amplifier by Technics. Look at this beast, 8,000 yen before sales tax. No way I can get that home. Well, I think I can if I were to buy it and then have it shipped. But man, that thing was definitely tempting. I'm a sucker for these older audio components. But anyhow, let's focus on the junk hardware here. And as you can see, games, hardware, they had quite a bit of they had a few Nintendo DS's. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and dig in deep here. And we got a DSi for 2,200 yen, and all the DS Fats, 1650. A few of them are going to have notes just kind of explaining what the issue is. And for some, it's a little bit obvious, like that pink one. The edges seem to be kind of discolored. But that's kind of an interesting color, especially if you're a collector of DS Fats. And some of them have the broken hinges, which is a common thing. And I believe there could be a fix. I'm not really sure. But we have a motion grip and all sorts of controllers here. And this is a great place to actually source like controllers. And the interesting thing here is not all of them have those annoying little price tag stickers. Unfortunately, the fishing controller does, but it's coming in at 2,200 yen. But some of them are priced based off the little band color, which we'll take a closer look at. But here we have a casino at home TV game controller. And then look at these funky looking controllers. But here's the pricing. And 550, 660, 880 seems to be the most expensive. This controller, blue band, 550 yen. Now, I picked that up. At least I didn't buy it because at the time when I picked it up, I kind of wanted it, but then I realized I have a DualShock 2, the DualShock 2 version in a similar color, so there's no point. But here we have a GameCube, a silver one, and I'm telling you, there was hardware kind of all over the junk section, but 2,000 yen before sales tax. Now, I do like the silver one. That was actually my second cube way back in the day that I bought at Walmart. But look at all the PS3 Fats. Now the base price for those, 4,000 yen, various issues. And that's 4,000 yen before sales tax. They had some PS2s, they got the LPs, you can spend hours just kind of digging through, but look at all these components. Oh man, that just makes me weak in the knees. I'm such a sucker for that stuff. But let's continue on. Check out this this hard-up junk hardware. We got some Super Famicoms, and let's have a closer look at one. And here we go, 800 yen before sales tax. This is the serial number, and I believe there's some pretty good documentation online, so you can kind of figure out, or at least have a good guess, if it's a one chip. And I once saw a guy in Akihabara just like digging deep in the junk section, and he was opening up the little extension port and having a closer look. So maybe that's a clue onto what is the one chip without having to fully opening it up. But you definitely also want to check way back in the deep into the shelves, because I found this Dreamcast arcade stick for 3,000 yen. I believe the graffiti can be erased. Here's another one for 4,000. And as I kept digging deeper, I pulled out a Sega Saturn, but also another Sega Dreamcast arcade stick. And oddly enough, this one was the most sunburnt, and it was deepest, the one that was deepest in there. But they had like about 3 or 4 in total, so not too bad there. And then I also found a Dreamcast keyboard. Has some issues there, but 1650. And remember, check the top shelf, because sometimes there's some good stuff up there. And then here's the old testing station. But yeah, pretty impressive junk section. And then this is the off-house part of the store. Now I checked, there's a lot of clothing, a lot of housewares, a lot of interesting things. With the most interesting, at least for me, is like these action figures, these toys. And a lot of them were, I believe, from the States, and they were sealed. Look at this Cyclops. That's a pretty cool looking one. And then more instruments. And pretty much what I like to do is I definitely, as I mentioned before, I like to check the entire store, because sometimes things get misplaced. And I have had the experience in the past where I found some game related stuff in a section of the store that I wasn't expecting. But look at all these instruments. That Minion one's, the Minion little mini guitar, whatever that is kind of interesting. And then here we have our acoustic guitars. All sorts of pricing. And then across from that, look at this, some cellos. 66,000. Good luck getting that one home. But then we have our electrical guitar amplifiers. All sorts of stuff here. And I was just kind of skimming the store, just seeing what I would find. Now on the opposite aisle over was where we started. That was the main game aisle. And you just never know. As a matter of fact, they had this little section here. Look at this. And a bunch of loose cards. And the stuff that they had here, this selection was actually pretty good. And the base price for a lot of these games was 2,000 yen before sales tax. A few of them were a bit less expensive, but overall not too bad of a price there. I mean, 2 copies of Super Metroid. And let me go ahead and adjust the exposure here. We got R-Type at 1650, Go-Go Ackman at 1650, 2,000 yen before sales tax on the Contra there. We got Area 88 for the same price. But anyhow, let's go ahead, go back to HQ, and kind of sum up our thoughts of the initial impressions of the store. Disappointment. Guys, I'm not going to lie. I'm just not going to do it. Disappointment. That was the one thing that came to my mind in that initial run through of the store. But let me just explain that. I'm so far off into my collection that one of the more important metrics that I measure it by is selection. And if you're starting off in this craziness of retro game collecting, they had a lot of solid options. They had the Zeldas, the Super Metroid, the N64 console. They had a bunch of stuff that's perfect for someone that's just starting off with their collecting. And that's just all. Like, just disappointment in regard to the selection. Now the pricing was actually fairly good on some of that stuff. The Hori N64 controller comes to mind. The emerald green or teal GameCube controller is another one. Apart from some other stuff that was in the junk section. But we're gonna keep digging deeper, because there is more than meets the eye to this store. And yeah, let's just continue on with the show and see what else we find in this more in-depth deep dive. So let's go ahead and hit it. Alrighty, y'all, let's have a closer look here and see what we missed the first time around, or rather what I missed, because when I entered the store, I was kind of looking through the camera screen, you know, so it definitely narrows the field of view. But the big thing here, or not a big thing, is going to be this Neo Geo AC adapter, 5,000 yen. And nowadays, those can be a little bit hard to come by. And I want to say that price is actually, for today's day and age, that's not actually too bad. We got a few PSPs, PS Vitas, and I got to say, for both of those handhelds, absolutely love them. But in regards to collecting the hardware, I'm completely done. I don't need any more. In fact, I got rid of a whole bunch of them, but here we have the Ethernet adapter once again, and yeah, that thing is expensive, but we have some Game & Watches that look pretty clean, at least the boxes do. A Game Boy Pocket coming in at 5,000, and then 2 Game Boy Colors in the back, 6,600 yen for each with the 10-month warranty. And then we have this green Game Boy Pocket for 5,500, but one of the corners is a little bit scuffed there. And then now this metallic rose GBA in the box, 12,100 yen. And when I think about it, I regret not picking that one up. That's the color that I definitely would love to have. I currently have a silver one, and then that Slime 2DS. That thing looks really cool. But let's keep making our way here and see what we find. Now this, I don't know what this is. Or at the time when I first saw it, I had no idea what it was. And as a part-time Zelda collector, I definitely wanted to pick that up. But let's just keep making our way through here, because there's some pretty interesting selection here. You know, we have X-Men vs. Street Fighter for 5,000 yen. Those Cube titles in the back are averaging 4,000 and some change. We got Sonic Wings. We got Captain Tsubasa there. We got Final Fight Tough for 5,000 yen before sales tax at the Surugaya, 17,500 yen. These stores are literally 20 minutes apart. We have Tournament Fighter for 3850, Adventure Island 2 for 4950, and then Rushing Beat, the sequel, for the same price. And then let's have a slow look here at what's in the bins. You know, we got Darkstalkers there for the Sega Saturn. We got Puyo Puyo Sun. We got some Virtual Cop stuff. So a lot of titles that I mentioned before, in regard, like if you're starting a collection or if you're starting to venture in another platform like the Sega Saturn, they got a lot of solid titles in here. You know, stuff that would that I still play every now and then. You know, like that Street Fighter Zero or Street Fighter Alpha, as it's known in the West. Absolutely love that game. And let's pull some of these out. And as you can see, 1,000 yen before sales tax. This Solo Crisis, that had like a 98 release. And then we have D's Diner for 800. Absolutely love that one. 2,000 for Samurai Showdown, Fighter's History, Dynamite, The Mansion of Hidden Souls, even some FN Towns Marty. This Chaos Control, I believe that's like an on-rails light gun type of shooter. But not a bad selection there. And then if you're a Saturn collector, look at that. We got some legacy cables in the box. Then we got the GBA Cube cable there. But yeah, you know, kind of going through it the second time around, you know, 38,500 yen for that PS5, 16,500 yen for that PS4 Pro, the white version. No warranty, but that's still a pretty good price, I feel, for that. Considering, look at the price of the black ones, 33,000. And then there's miscellaneous PS5 accessories. And we're just making our way here. Now, loose carts, I thought I stopped collecting these, but some of these games are just so expensive. But, you know, in the loose form, outside of their box, they're fairly inexpensive. And Turtles in Time for the Super Famicom is a good example of that. I mean, in the box, that game's like about 30,000 yen. And without it, it's like about 3,000 yen, and that's like a huge price difference. So sometimes it just makes sense to just go loose cart. And there's plenty of ways to display that, especially with these older cases that Nintendo would release. And some of them are actually pretty cool looking. But let's just keep making our way here. And you guys might see something. Now here, I hate to spoil it, but no manual. That's the reason why that's so inexpensive. But that's something that you could get at a later date. And for a game like that, it shouldn't be too hard. Haven't seen this wrestling one before, and that one had some kind of like funky 3D like graphics. And then we have this Smart Joypad 3. Look at that cover. It's so 90s. For Windows 98, the second edition. And then we have some PC games, Might and Magic, The Mandate of Heaven. Do love that subtitle. And then we have Last Armageddon. Some pretty gnarly artwork on these. And they had a few more PC games, which I'll show you guys here. That's pretty much the extent of their PC games. But let's just keep making our way here. Now, this is the book-off side of things. And I'm not going to spend too much time here. But, you know, PS3, PS4, PS5, Switch, DS, 3DS, PlayStation Vita, PSP. They pretty much had all that stuff on the opposite side of the store where the book-off stuff was. They also had guides, which we'll have a look at, and soundtracks, which unfortunately I didn't film. But there was one PlayStation Vita title, which I regret not picking up, which is this Biohazard Revelations 2. It's a slideshow on the Vita, but still, I would love to get it on that platform. Just kind of a novelty thing, curiosity more than anything. But some of the prices on the 3DS games, definitely not bad. You know, you can't go wrong shopping at Book Off, especially for stuff that's I don't know if I would consider this super or at least retro, but they're definitely legacy platforms for their respective manufacturers. And then this actually has full English language support, and it includes the soundtrack, as do the original 3DS or the original DS versions. And then here we are making our way into the guidebooks. Very small, but there was a few that were interesting and a little bit tempting, but I decided not to pick up any, just because that's the stuff that weighs you down. And you know, I'm definitely going to slow down on the guidebooks. But that Code Veronica Gun Survivor 2, that one's a little tempting because I do love Biohazard. But anyhow, guys, that's going to be it for this location. Now we're going to head back here to HQ, and I'm going to show you all the pickups that I had, and then from there I'm going to show you what I had for lunch. We'll go down to another book off, as I mentioned earlier, and then we're going to end things by checking out the Gale. Now the Gale is going to be more like the book off in that it's going to have a lot of the more modern stuff, but it's definitely a place that you should put on your map if you're into that kind of stuff. But anyhow, let's go ahead back to HQ and we'll continue with the show. All right, y'all, so what do you think? Now, initially I was disappointed, but as we did this deep dive and just going through the game aisle, you know, taking a closer look, there was a few things that were calling out to my attention. Now, the first pickup is going to be the N64 Hori Pad at $38.50. Now, this thing is super light, super comfortable, except for if you plan to use the D-pad. Now, I can't really think of many games where you would want to do that on the N64, but if you use the D-pad, it's so compact that, especially if you have large hands, they're going to cramp up. But if you're using the analog stick, absolutely a thing of beauty, highly recommended. And you can get it at a similar price if you're looking in West Tokyo, Saitama, Chiba, Kanagawa. You don't have to go all the way to Sapporo to find that kind of a deal. But anyhow, the next pickup is gonna be that big old Zelda cartridge. Look at this thing. Now, when I first saw it, I had no idea what it was, and it turns out it's a calculator. And if you do some like basic, you know, as you use the calculator, it plays like sound effects, which is pretty cool. So super happy to have that in the collection. And I haven't seen one before, but in looking it up on Google, apparently they made some for like ice climbers. It's a 2005 vintage official Nintendo product, but definitely cool to see that. And I picked it up more because, you know, I do have a few Zelda collectibles, but it's just something you don't really see every day. And anyhow, super happy to have it. Now the last thing that I got was Kingsfield 2. As a matter of fact, I have it right here. I got it from the junk section. 330 yen. I love From Software, especially their, you know, their high fantasy type of games. And that was the main reason that I got it. I just wanted to, I never played this back in the day. I did know about them. I just never played it because I wasn't really into RPGs at that period of time. And I heard that it was slow, and in playing it, it is super slow, but definitely cool. Just a nice little piece of history of From Software. Now, other games that I was kind of interested in was that Street Fighter or Tournament Fighter, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was definitely interesting, and also Super Adventure Island 2, although that one's more like an RPG, and there's a little bit, I don't know. it's not like the first game, so I decided not to get those. The other one was Final Fight Tough. Now that's something that you could resell. You can make some money at 5,000 yen before sales tax. That's a pretty good price. I mean, you guys saw at the Surugaya in Sapporo itself, 17,500 yen. And I didn't get it because I'm in the middle of trying to getting rid of stuff as I just look around the game room. And I'm not a reseller. I tried that. And at the end of the day, I'm just a gamer, a collector. I'm selling stuff to just kind of build my ideal curated collection. So I just let that one go. And anyhow, no regrets there. But anyhow, let's go ahead and continue the show. I'm going to show you what I had for lunch. I keep repeating that. We'll go to Book Off and the Gale. So let's just go ahead and hit it. All right, y'all. So this is the station where the Hard Off is located. And this is where my hotel is located. And from Sapporo to Susukino, that whole area is pretty much like the downtown section, and it has a whole underpass that connects those 3 stations. And there's a lot to see down here. This part of it is Pole Town, and I'll definitely cover it in more detail in a future video. But back on the street level, now this street here, I'll put the name there. I just can't forgot it off the top of my head. But a lot of places to shop, a lot of places to eat, and it's loaded with the Gale and Second Street shops. And I wonder if these are just based out of Sapporo, if this is like their hometown or whatever. But the Wii U Basic, that's 5,980. They got a PS5 for 41,980, which is to be expected at Gale all across Japan. The Slim down below was at 51, and then you can see there the prices for the various Switch OLED limited edition models. They had quite a few. But this was just a quick stop. We're going to be hitting up another Gale, but I got a hot dash to where I'm going to be having lunch. As a matter of fact, my mother-in-law and my wife were waiting for me there. And we decided to go to a sushi restaurant, which was recommended to us by one of our cab drivers. And pretty nice interior. And look at these boys hard at work making everybody's lunch. And I got to say, like, now this place wasn't like the best, but it was far, far, far from the worst. And this is just kind of the menu. Now, they also, I believe they also have English menus. And they also have like a lunch special, which is what we decided to go after. You could also do a la carte, and you can just, fill out that little sheet. And of course, we got to guzzle down some sake. We're out on vacation. It doesn't matter if it's midday. Let's go ahead and do it. And yeah, I do definitely like to have some sake while I have my sushi. Good stuff. And then this is like the lunch set. And I forget the total cost of it, but I believe for the 3 of us with all the drinks that we had and the extras, it was like just over like 10,000 yen. And this crab miso soup, absolutely delicious. I love it. We also had some maki rolls, which you can kind of see in the background there. But yeah, this soup, oh man, definitely hit the spot. And when you're out in the cold, which we're going to be going back out there, it definitely helps keep you warm. But here we are just making our way in the downtown area, and the destination is going to be the Book Off. But a really nice downtown area. I mean, look at this. Some of it is pretty picturesque, and there's a lot of little shops and places to eat down those alleys. But here's the Book Off, and they occupy 4 floors of that building. And then just down the way is my Hotel Legend, or that's the hotel that we stayed at. So super, super convenient. And as we go in, this place is huge. 4 floors, as I mentioned, and the video games are going to be on the first floor, and that's the only floor that I filmed at. As a matter of fact, I think I accidentally deleted some of the footage, which is a bummer. But anyhow, let's see what let's just check out the footage that I do have. Dragon Dogma 2, looking forward to that one. And then here, just kind of forgotten, is just like some of the more retro stuff. Here we have a DSi for 2,700 yen with the charger, so that's not too bad, especially considering the location where it's at. But as you can see, N64 controllers, the Super Famicom in the box for 5,400 before sales tax. And I believe this place is a tax-free shop. In fact, there was so many tourists out of like South Korea, China, and various parts of Europe, America. But a lot of interesting little things here. You could make your pickups, but here's like their PS5 selection. And I gotta say, like the current gen stuff, from PS5, Switch, PS4, that's where they're really gonna shine. And if that's what you're after, that's what you're trying to collect while you're in Japan, definitely hit these guys up. And I mean, why not? It's just conveniently located. But they did have a retro section, and I had one pickup here, which, well, here's Final Fantasy 16, 4,100 yen. But here's the retro section, and the one pickup that I had was for the Sega Saturn. It was Manx TT Superbike, and with the racing controller, that game's awesome. It's a little bit bare bones with like 2 tracks, but definitely awesome. You know, they have Cube games, PS2, and PSP, PS Vita, and then all sorts of Game Boy, and just a little bit of everything. But at the same time, like, the retro stuff here is going to be picked over unless you're looking for like loose carts. There's potential to find a little bit of some notable games, and just like the stacks here, you know, they got the Rockmans, the Super Marios, the Turtles games. They just got a little bit of everything. But anyhow, let's go ahead and do a sweeping shot of the other goods that they have on the first floor. And as you can see, just a massive amount of toys. And I think that, I'm not really sure, but it could extend up to the second floor. I didn't head up there, unfortunately, but I'm sure this place is stacked with like soundtracks and guides as well. But that was the book op. And then next to that, they got a gamers, and then they have the Animate. Now, the Animate is also found, I believe, in Akihabara, Ikebukuro, Shinjuku. It's a big shop. But as you can see, they're GameSoft and ROM. So let's go ahead and go inside. And their specialty are these visual novel games. Now, guys, I have no interest in these games. I know nothing about them, but I do appreciate that they're really pushing the genre and they have it nicely organized. But if this genre is your thing, you definitely want to head here, because, I mean, just look at the amount of games that they have. And it looks like it's like just a few publishers that are really pushing these games. But look at this. This is crazy. But yeah, just so many visual novel games. Now, I'm not sure if these games include like English language support or what the deal is. But again, if this is what you're after, if this is what you're collecting, then Animate is definitely a store that you want to be hitting up. And then here we go, the final Gale. This is the down below. So let's go ahead and go in there. And I'll definitely be covering the Gale shops in more detail. But now, don't be fooled by that price. That's actually the discount. The normal price is 11,480. Then you apply that discount. That's still a pretty good deal. They got the Uncharted PS4, and then they also have the Death Stranding one. Now, the camera unfortunately cut off here, but it looks like that one's at 24,000 with the 1,200 yen discount. But yeah, all sorts of PS4s, PS5s, and I'll definitely cover a Gale in greater detail in the next video. But for now, guys, let's go ahead and head back to HQ. All right, y'all, we're at the end of today's episode. And what do you think? Now, with the hard off, the premier store of this video, would I return there? Yes, absolutely, because it's in my nature. Even though there was a tinge of disappointment, it's just what I do. I hit up these hard offs in hopes of finding some retro gold. And I just want to say this. Now, with this store, you know, 80% of its stock, now whether you're going in Hokkaido, the Tokyo area, Chiba, Saitama, Kansai, way out in Fukuoka, and the Inaka, everything in between, 80% of the stock is going to be very, very similar, but it's that 20% that will make all the difference. Pricing, that's going to vary a lot more, because these stores are franchised, and, you know, depending on the manager, the supervisor, whatever, that's what's going to determine the pricing, as well as what you feel is appropriate, an appropriate price for whatever given product that they have. So anyhow, in regard to Sapporo, 2 more episodes are in the pipeline, so expect those. Stay tuned. So more Gale, more hard off, more book off, more to come. Anyhow, my name is JJ. Thank you for watching Retro Rewire, and I will see you very, very soon. Ciao.